So Jake, what do you call? Oh God, oh God. See, I haven't. I made these. I made these like a couple of years ago
Oh no.
when I was young and edgy and wearing shirts like this one today, which is actually backwards. So thankfully, it's kind of censored. Anyway, um, what do you what do you call a lesbian with long nails?
Uh, I'm not gonna say anything.
Single. I'll leave that up for interpretation. Um, hello, and welcome to Torchwood, where we have all the worst jokes, the really grotesque ones, because it's Torchwood. Yeah, we're doing series 1, episode 7. Last time we had episode 6, which was called Countryside.
Uh-huh.
And that was gorecore. It was gnarly. Now, interestingly, because we were talking about it, and it was Chris Chibnall actually wrote an episode that we liked for once, and I have a bit of trivia about it from one of the commenters.
Okay.
So, about 7 or 8 months earlier in 2006, so like at the start of '06, around the time that this series would have been being written and about to go into production, there was an episode of the show called Supernatural, which is also a sci-fi show-ish, or maybe it might be a fantasy, but I know it's like in the same genre. There was an episode of that show called The Benders that's very, very, very similar to Countryside.
Right.
So it's quite possible that Chris Chibnall may have stolen that idea. Which
Was it written before or after?
way before.
Oh, the Supernatural episode.
Like
Way
the
before.
Supernatural episode came out in like February 2006, and this
Oh, Chris Chibnall, come on, mate.
yeah, and then this came out like 8 months after that.
I said all this nice stuff, and there's a potential chance that this motherfucker plagiarized.
Damn it! I mean, it was. I mean, Countryside in itself is a really good episode, but
Yeah, I'm not. It was still really good, but
it is still like there is that bit of like, Chris Chibnall, what are you doing?
he's a shifty bastard. That's what he is.
I would imagine though there are things about Countryside that are different. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that much about Supernatural, but I can't imagine that it'll be, exactly the same. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I have no idea. There was also another thing that I was thinking about today, and it's kind of interesting, like thinking about the chain of events. So, way back in series 2, in Rise of the Cybermen, at the very start, the whole reason they end up going into that parallel universe is because the Doctor's being a twat, and basically he had Mickey hold that button for too long, and it overheated the TARDIS, and they ended up in that parallel universe. So the Doctor, being a twat, making that choice to, be a bit nasty to Mickey, caused a very interesting chain of events to where they ended up in a parallel universe, and then because of that, them traveling through, it opened up the void, where in Army of Ghost Doomsday the Cybermen came through to where they were on Earth, like in our Earth, and the Series 2 finale. So that means that the Doctor making the conscious decision to be an arsehole to Mickey caused Yanto's girlfriend to die. So that means
the Doctor's
that means the Doctor is the reason Cyberwoman exists.
Oh. Fuck.
Yep. Anyway, I thought that was funny to think about. All right, so we have a Patreon, we have a Twitter, we have a Discord, we have a Letterboxd, all in the description. I've had to add some new rules onto the Discord because we had a bit of a situation the other day, so trying to keep you all safe. But yeah, you want to say anything before we get into episode 7, which is called Greeks Bearing Gifts?
No. No.
No?
No.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, so, are you ready?
Yep.
Ooh.
Wait, what year was it? Was it 1982 or 1882?
1812.
Oh my god. Oh. Oh.
Oh, yuck. Jesus.
Okay. Oh. Whoa. On the rally car track. Have you seen that meme where it's in the rally car?
No.
And he's like, Samir, listen to my calls. You are breaking the car, Samir. Oh.
It was the same woman, wasn't it?
Yeah, a bit of a haircut.
That's what happened in 200 years.
Good skincare routine as well.
I'm picking up traces of ilmenite.
Toby Wethouse.
And even dark friend there. She's dead.
But I guess I don't need to tell you.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Jeez, poor girl.
At the building site this morning. So what was that you had in the case?
Oh, smoking inside.
It's not just a trait of ours, but a trait of existence.
I feel like she's the James May of Torchwood.
And there are times we found the
You know, Clarkson, I thought of this really interesting thing.
what? They're people's thoughts to Sheikah.
I wish I'd shagged that single dad I met there.
Reading minds, eh?
Whoa.
It's always something that people have wondered.
What movie does that remind me of? I don't know.
Don't know.
Hi.
God, whenever I see him on screen, I just get PTSD from Cyberwoman.
Lisa.
Lisa! No.
Wonder what she'd be like in bed. Catholic but grateful, I bet. When she ran her tongue across my teeth, I should have worn different trousers. I'm gonna have to sit down till this subsides.
No, couldn't have sex in front of a weevil. I couldn't even do it in front of Trevor Kendall's cat.
Feels like this is all I am now. There isn't an inch of me that doesn't hurt.
Man,
I'm about to...
you aren't so poetic.
Oh yeah, he's outside of, like, so far, outside of Cyberwoman, he's been great. It's
Yeah.
just Cyberwoman. But, like, also, you can understand why he's feeling that pain, because obviously he lost the person he loved.
Yeah.
Was that really necessary? Didn't know that was going to happen, but I'll take it.
You will.
It's like episode 2 again.
Yeah.
All of Russell T Davies' fucking sex alien fantasies just get made into Torchwood.
Yeah.
Gives me an hour before Lisa gets back to dress up. I've got to be careful. She's starting to notice her tights getting baggy around the crotch.
Big-eyed and beady, and I'm sat there with my boobs like something out of the National Geographic. 6 cigarette masters.
Ah, Mr. Thorne, I've been expecting you.
There's a grotty door.
Then we will be together forever.
That's quite powerful.
What's going on?
She's just stopped a murder.
Any part of
was a skeleton.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to kiss you now. Listen. You do something unbelievably brave and sexy. I have to kiss you. I don't make rules.
God, that guy in the background, he's like, what?
Mosquito.
He's like, these bloody millennials, what are they doing?
When was this? Like 08, 09?
06. See, if it was now, like, same-sex kissing in public would be considered pretty normal. But smoking inside, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
You gonna give us all cancer?
I feel like it was on their way out though in 09. Smoking inside.
This was 06, though.
06, sorry.
No. Sorry.
Right. Just go over there, do your computer stuff, think about shoes, eh? Thank you.
He's like you said in the last review, he's slowly becoming like the best thing in the show.
Yeah.
Ooh, that looks cool.
So you secretly fight crime, is that it, Tosh?
I don't want to do it like I should. No, sure. I mean, that's lesson one.
Just someone walking by you being like, I'm gonna fucking murder them. I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna pop a cap in their ass.
God, I fucking love Jack, man. He's such a like a dickhead, but it's like in the best way.
Yeah.
Tosh, that's really funny. You tell me about that.
Face? Is it food?
No, sorry. I zoned out.
He doesn't have
It's a good save,
thoughts.
Tosh.
Told you, he's not human. That's his hand in the jar.
No comment.
He's a robot. That's his hand in the jar.
I'll get my boss.
Hmm.
Oh.
I'll show you.
Whoa.
Very abstract.
I'm shagging a woman in an alien. Which is worse.
Grandad's little secret.
Oh dear. That would be very stressful, wouldn't it? Hearing everyone's voices.
Yeah. I would not do it.
No.
Ignorance is bliss.
Absolutely. And like it removes all the mystery, you know?
Yeah.
And also like there's the whole Buddhist theory of like our thoughts aren't even us. Like it's just like a manifestation of our brain. Like we often even disagree with our thoughts.
Most of the time it's just a reaction.
It fills me up.
What's that shot doing there?
He just loves standing on buildings.
What building will I stand on today?
It's like one of the weevils. Look inside. It's just this great yawning scream.
Oh, I forgot about that guy.
He tried to shoot me. So I plunged my new human hand into his chest and plucked out his heart.
Hey. Oh.
Oh.
The wicked. The power such a body has in this world.
Set the coordinates.
Where to?
To the center of the sun. Shouldn't be hot. I mean, we sent her there at night and everything.
You killed her.
Yes.
Brutal. Yeah, but there's one problem with that.
You talk shit about how she looks.
No, that's not what I meant, but...
You know, regular bosses. Do I get to beat people?
Guys,
Get that tear off your face there, darling.
Guy, he's just so charming, isn't he? He's an old school gentleman, but also not.
Yeah, he's
He likes
gentle.
he also
gentle something.
He also likes to shag species, apparently.
It's a very long helicopter shot.
Yeah, it's like, what do we need to look at carbon? All right, pause. Okay, Jake. So, your thoughts on Greeks bearing gifts?
That was another very captivating story in the old Torchwood-averse. I thought it was really good. I thought it was cool. I don't know. I just thought all the elements of it cool, and we finally got a Tosh story.
Absolutely, it's what we've been wanting for so long.
It's what It's rounded off the team, and the elements of it. I think the supporting actress was really good.
Oh, the one who played Mary.
Mary, yeah.
Yeah. I love the way how she just. It was interesting because this obviously it's based off Greek mythology, and I loved the way sometimes the way she would talk to Tosh, it reminded me of like stage plays you saw with like Greek characters,
They like neutral accent, where it's like not exactly British, but it's kind of like this neutral English accent.
Yeah,
that's kind of
but
exactly.
But also just the mannerisms as well.
Yeah.
Although add in a bit of cigarettes and kinky lesbian sex, I suppose. Yeah, I agree with you. She was really captivating, really striking actress,
commanding on screen as well,
and was a good match for Tosh, because Tosh is quite a she's quite a reserved character, quite quiet, quite sensitive, and she was very dominant, aggressive. So I think they fitted well because it's kind of like opposites attract, except for the fact that Tosh is really interested in this stuff. Like I mentioned in the reaction, I was kind of joking around, being like she's kind of like the James May of Torchwood, because we've seen before that she's really interested in all this like tech stuff and like history stuff. She likes reading books, and she got an insight into sort of Greek mythology, but it was also aliens as well.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest takeaway for this for me is the fact that, I really like the whole like, okay, there's two things about this episode that are my favorite things. The first thing is that in the opening credits scene, we were misled to believe that the guy shot the woman, but then it's revealed later on that that the alien possessed the woman and then ripped the guy's heart out. And I loved how throughout the episode Owen was trying to break it down and figure out what was happening.
Yeah.
And then like
there were some good devices to like carry the plot.
Yeah, it really showed his talent as a doctor to be able to figure out what happened without even knowing it.
Yeah. Well, also that whole scene of him also getting everything wrong and everyone like making fun of him.
Yeah. But he got it eventually. And the other part of the plot I really liked is because we take the point of view of Tosh, who I've said, she's quite a sensitive character, and she got an insight into what people actually think of her. It was quite, you felt sympathy for her.
Yeah, especially, definitely, and that like brutal human nature of the way that we think, like the very Neanderthal, reactions that we have to things going on in our lives and things around us, and your like initial thought reactions that you always don't realize that you have until you reflect on maybe your thoughts later, and you're like, well, I don't actually think that anymore, but that initial thought was still there, and she saw all those initial thoughts that people have about their life and everything, and it is that would be quite a weird thing to witness, is just how brutal everyone is to their immediate reactions to their surroundings and their life and everything.
Oh yeah, it was brutally honest, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that's also like a focus in a lot of Greek literature is the disgusting behavior of humans and
Absolutely.
everything.
Yeah.
And that's why gods exist and everything. So it's another kind of layer to the whole Greek.
Well, yeah, I mean,
theme.
if you're going to tie that into sort of religious text, that kind of ties into the whole thing of like our minds are full of sin, but our actions are what counts. Is the kind of religious way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, like they used it for, it's because we got a hint of it in Countryside, but here it's kind of more fleshed out in the sense of like you can tell that Tosh is jealous of Gwen because of the fact that Gwen is, you know, having a thing with Owen. And like, you know, you saw like obviously in Countryside it was revealed that they had that like, you know, snog on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
When they were drunk.
I'm not sure
and
if
then
she's,
there's
like,
also
jealous to say, like, as much as more she's like shocked that it's happening.
That's true.
And,
but
and kind of like, you know, because obviously she will know about Reese. She's kind of like, well, what about that, him being a sensitive person? That's what she would think about.
Yeah, well, because remember in the previous episode, Gwen was saying like, "Oh, it's complicated. I don't want to explain it." But then obviously she found out the truth by reading her mind. But also, if you remember, like the she had a picture of her and Owen on her fridge.
Yeah.
So it's clear that they have some history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you notice that in the last scene, when Owen found out that she was reading his mind, he was real like uptight about it. Because he was like, shit, you know, I didn't want you to hear that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, also the stuff with Jack, that was was cool.
Yeah, the fact
uncovering.
the fact that she couldn't read his mind until he chose.
Yeah. And then what's her name going you smell different. And then she's like, "Oh, what are you? What are you?" And he's like, "I don't know."
Yeah. And then I there was also that really like almost chilling bit when Tosh says it's almost like you were dead and Jack's smile just like disappeared.
Yeah.
Because he's like, fuck, what, am I actually dead? Am I a walking corpse? Because if you think about it, he kind of is when you think about the series 1 finale. Like, he actually got killed by a Dalek.
Yeah.
And then resurrected. So he is walking around in a corpse, in a way.
But is he still human? That's the question.
And then, of course, when she read Yanto's mind, she read all the poetic, like, fucking depression that's in his head.
That's someone that's not reacting to surroundings. That's someone that's, like, reacting to his thoughts and arguing in his thoughts, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could tell there was a lot of just self-loathing in there. But then when he actually talks to her, he's just being a nice butler sort of character, you know?
Yeah. It was nice to come back to some sci-fi themes, though.
True.
And, whilst it wasn't like extremely heavily sci-fi,
it was actually kind of fantasy, actually, a little bit.
It was quite fantasy. It was quite mythological, and but definitely still like a human drama.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like that was the main focus, and I do enjoy human drama a lot. I think. Because it's way easier to be invested in people when it's like actual human emotions and things happening. Whereas sometimes you get a bit disconnected when there's too much random shit happening. Case in point, Cyberwoman.
Yeah, well, this is what I love about Russell T Davies, the way he writes the companions in Doctor Who. He puts so much meat into their character and so much personality that you can relate to them. You know, thinking about like Rose and Mickey and Martha.
Yeah.
You know, and Jackie Tyler as well. They have so much meat to them, you can sink your teeth into them.
Yeah. Yeah. What are we at? This is episode 7, eh?
Yeah, it's episode 7.
It's pretty good. This is it's starting to definitely get like into the swing of things, and I think this kind of, you know, marks the start of probably the bigger like story arcs of Torchwood, right? Like this kind of is the last intro episode and more. Now we get into the overarching problems. but you've already got one starting with Owen and Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I've got there is a moment in this episode that I'm trying to I think I can't quite place in my head where this takes place, because if you remember in Smith and Jones, when Martha was walking into the TARDIS, there was election posters. Like there was one that said "Vote Saxon" on it.
Yeah.
But then in this episode, Captain Jack was on the phone to the Prime Minister. So I'm thinking, is he on the phone to the Prime Minister that was before this election? Or is he on the phone to whoever won this election? I think it's before. I think this episode takes place in canon before Smith and Jones.
Okay.
Like, I think Jack is talking to the person who was Prime Minister before the election that's about to happen.
Before Saxon.
Before Saxon. So this must take place before Smith and Jones. I think that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've gotten a bit of out of order in terms of like the canon, but I think I just need to clear that up, because like I don't know if you noticed, but if you did hear it and got a bit confused of like, well, I saw vote posters, why is there a Prime Minister already? Has they been elected or not? I'm pretty certain that this is the Prime Minister that whoever was. I think it would be whoever was after Harriet Jones, but then whoever's before whoever's going to be in the current election.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's my inkling. I could be wrong about that. It might be. Yeah. It might be.
Or we could be ahead.
After. We might be ahead. I don't know. It's hard to say really. But I know it's one or the other. I know it's definitely after Harriet Jones, because that was ages ago.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Cybermen invaded in the Series 2 finale, and this is after that, so definitely after Harriet Jones.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was that connection between this. Jack was talking to the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also. Yeah. I think it was really cool. It's a really nice blend of like a bit of mythology, a bit of fantasy, and then a bit of human drama, like we've said. And I think one little bit that I thought was really interesting was that obviously so far we've seen Tosh has been quite in the background, not as aggressive, not as confident as the others. But I liked the fact that when she heard that guy who was going to kill his, ex-wife and child,
yeah,
she actually took action and did the right thing and saved their lives and put herself on the line, because obviously if she failed and the guy saw her, he could have shot her.
Yeah.
But she saved lives, so it shows that she does have a drive to, go out on a limb and do the right thing. It's just that we don't really see that a lot because she's constantly around other people that are a lot more capable in action.
Yeah. I still feel like the ending had like that weird, like Act 3 kind of started and finished very quickly. Like
yeah, I mean it was kind of like we didn't really know about how it was going to end until it happened, like where Jack reprogrammed it so it went into the middle of the sun.
Yeah.
I will say, even though I do really enjoy this episode, there is a few little like plot contrivances, I think, because like that one was a weird surprise that it's not that it doesn't make sense, it's just a bit like okay that happened. But there was a few other things, like some of the dialogue that Mary was saying, like she would contradict herself a little bit, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not. Like she's like, oh, I'm not going to Torchwood because you'll just chain me up and put me in prison, and then later in the episode she's like, take me to Torchwood. Yeah. And then there was also another one, it's like Tosh is like, oh, they pity me, and she's like, no, it's complicated, they like you, and then later on she's like, they pity you. Yeah. And I think it might
contradiction a lot.
It might be tactical, but it did come off as a bit of a contradiction.
Yeah.
Not that it broke the story or anything, but it was just a bit.
It kind of had this weird like back and forth for a while, which was like a weird lull.
Yeah.
But
I think one of my favorite sequences though is the sequence where Tosh is lying on the bed crying and she's sitting in the chair, and she's like talking about what she's learned and what's going on, what these people are, and I love the way that ties into the cutaways to Owen and Jack.
Yeah. I also had the same kind of thing with the intercutting of her walking out into that square. Because she's being told she knows what to do and all that, and then that intercuts with her walking into the square, and then we have that scene where she's listening to all the people, and it's kind of disorientating and really weird.
Yeah, there was a lot of experimental editing in this episode.
Yeah, I think some of it was a bit weird.
I don't like the fast forward shots. Those are weird. But
they were definitely overused.
Yeah, but it was ambitious, and I think some of it definitely worked, especially in the more intense scenes where it was intentionally disorientating.
Yeah.
And it kind of made it feel a bit surreal, which was a nice change of pace from last episode, which was very real. Countryside was very gritty and real, whereas this was a lot more surreal. Yeah.
I think the alien graphics was completely fine. Honestly, I love the way she changed into her alien form. That was cool.
The transformation, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the design of it. It looks cool.
I do like the design of it. Yeah.
It's very weird. Yeah. But really, really cool episode. A few weird moments, a few weird bits of pacing and editing aside.
Yep. I think another kind of weak-ish Act 3. It wasn't as weak as
Small Worlds. Wasn't as weak as Small Worlds, no.
Not as weak as that one, but still, not as strong as Countryside's one. I would say.
Yeah, I think the ideas, the concepts, the themes, and the character stuff was great. It's just the plot mechanics were a little bit iffy.
I think it was a little bit too much to fit into a 45-minute episode of something.
That's true. Yeah, we haven't had any two-parters, have we?
No. You could definitely fit it into a whole episode. I think that you just need to they needed to be a little bit more careful with how much subplot they were injecting, and
you don't want to overstuff it.
Yeah, and I don't know what would have been cool is to get a little bit more explanation on her alien world and stuff like that.
That's true.
A little bit, because that kind of that started Act 3, right? Her changing into her alien form. Yeah, it would have been cool to float on that for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a two-parter, you could have done a bit more world building and character building, and yeah, I mean, it would have been very expansive. It wouldn't have been necessary. But yeah, a few minor issues aside, I thought it was a really solid episode. And now Tosh isn't just exposition.
No, now we know a little bit more about her.
Yes,
doesn't feel like a side character.
Oh, there was one other thing that I remember that I really liked was that because exposition is a tough one to get right, but what I really liked about this was that because Mary had the pendant and she could read minds, we learnt so much about Tosh just from Mary reading her mind and telling her, "I know things about you."
I didn't even know her name was Toshiko, sorry.
Yeah. Toshiko Sato. And then they were you were born in London and then you went to Osaka for 2 years, I believe they said. And then she came back to Cardiff, and then they learnt about her parents and her university and all that. And we got a whole backstory on her just from that Mary reading her mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool.
Pretty fun.
Really cool. So, have you anything else to say?
No.
Okay.
We covered it.
Alright then. So, it's a relatively well-liked episode. There is a fairly consistent standard that most Torchwood episodes keep to, and by this point in the series you can see that. Yeah. So it's relatively well-liked. I've seen some of the subscribers say they think this one's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It is admittedly a bit of a weird one. You kind of got to be into the whole Greek mythology thing,
Yeah.
I
don't think it's super Greek mythology heavy. It's only got the what was it? Pleristocles. Never say fucking Greek names. Who is a real minor character in the Trojan War story.
So what I can say now is that one of the things that series 1 of Torchwood gets praised for is how it shifts the focus between different members of Torchwood, like a point of view.
Yeah.
Which is an effective way to develop the characters, because if they all had the same amount of screen time in every episode, then they'd all be underdeveloped.
Yeah, 100%. I think the way that they've done it has been really good, especially when you have 4 main characters. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4.
Well, 5, technically.
Oh, 5.
Yanto.
Forgot about Yanto.
Yanto. Because it feels like we haven't really gotten that much with... Oh no, to be fair, we did have Small Worlds. I was going to say we haven't got much with Jack. It just feels like it's been a while because we haven't watched Small Worlds in ages.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the way they shifted around between all the characters. I like how, like, in the previous episode, like, Gwen was like a really... Like, the point of view on her was really specific and, like, complex, and we got all the different nuances of a character. But because in this time, we were only seeing it from Tosh's point of view, we only got the worst of her.
Only her worst thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
And you kind of makes you hate her a little bit.
I know. But then you remember all the other things you've seen with her, and it's like, well, actually, there's more going on to just this. It's just this is the only thing that Tosh is seeing is the worst stuff.
Yeah.
I think I will also say, like, whilst it certainly wasn't as bad as, like, Chris Chibnall's worst, I do think some of the dialogue was a little bit clunky in places.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't bad.
Mary's dialogue was really good. I think Owen's dialogue was really good. I think some of Tosh's dialogue was super melodramatic, and but yeah, I do agree. It wasn't wasn't bad.
I would say all the dialogue that was through the pendant was really good. Like when they were talking to themselves, that was great. But I just think there was a few, like, slightly over dramatic dialogues, like
that dialogue scene between Gwen and Tosh at the end. That was kind of weird.
And also, like, I mean, I also felt like the dialogue of the dad who was about to shoot his family, like, it was very dramatic. But the thing is, like, when I was watching, I was like, I feel like I've seen this scene so many times before. Like, when they're about to shoot someone, they're like, you know
bring
what?
Up a memory.
There was that thing we did.
Yeah.
And
it's such a nice memory.
And he's just loading the gun.
I really like that memory.
And they're
it's
like,
really nice.
And they're like, oh, don't, please.
Yeah. And then, like, kid's face, he's like, doesn't even look scared. He's just getting squished into his mum's body. Like, the fuck is going on? Yeah. Right.
So the episode is written by Toby Whithouse, and the only episode you've gotten from him so far was School Reunion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the one where Sarah Jane was in it.
Yeah.
That was the other one he wrote so far. Overall, I'd say Toby Whithouse is a writer that I'm quite fond of. I think School Reunion was definitely more on the inside the box side because it had to be. I really like School Reunion still. Like, I love that episode, but this was definitely more like kind of what Toby Whithouse is usually like. It's his more like experimental side, because he's a really experimental writer, and I know that he likes I know that he has a sort of fascination with, like, creatures, like mythological creatures. So this was definitely more up his alley. Although to be fair, the Krillitane, the school teachers from School Reunion, were kind of in that realm a bit. But this definitely more so was more towards the kind of thing that he would do usually.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he did a really good job. Apart from a few little nitpicks aside, I thought he did a really good job, and it was a cool concept. And I liked the way he tied the plot together. Just maybe there was a little bit of a cram in the structure, like maybe the time wasn't enough to fully flesh it out.
Definitely. Like an hour and a half would have been good. That was a movie. Well, probably not an hour and a half. Maybe like an hour.
Well, I mean,
an hour and 10 minutes would have been good.
I mean, like, an hour and a half is a Sherlock episode.
Yeah. I think just an extra 10 minutes, just like an extra couple of scenes in Act 3 would have been good. Like Jack setting up the thingy and, like, figuring it out and all that.
Yep.
'Cause all we got was him standing at a clock, and then he was like, "Yep, I know what's going on." Something about Vincent and Vanessa as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to dwell on that too much, but I can see why someone would be offended by that. To be fair, like it was a bit of a dodgy moment.
A little bit transphobic, but
There was a line in the Shakespeare Code where the Doctor was talking about like men dressing as women.
yeah.
And it was a bit like, don't know about that. But yeah, I'll move on from that. Don't want to get into that at all. But the episode was directed by Colin Teague. I don't think you've had him yet, but he does go on to do some of Doctor Who as well. What did you think of the direction?
Yeah, I think it was all good. I think a lot of the stylistic choices definitely came in the edit room. Well, I guess some of the camera movement, like some of the more camera movie things, were done on set.
I would say
I
like
feel like it was kind of that stuff got overbearing a little bit.
I think the street shots definitely looked cheap. Like everything that was in the streets to me looked like it was just shot raw and
overblown.
You know, overblown, thrown as sequence. There was no real like color grading to it. It was just a really generic looking street shot.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite bit of direction was, well, actually no, to be fair, all the direction where it's like panning around to characters and in your mind you're having to think what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because you can't hear the dialogue. So to be fair, I think that was actually quite well done. But the other one, obviously, I think the direction that I really liked was the scene where Tosh is on her bed and it's cutting between Owen and Jack. I thought that was really well done.
The overhead shot. That was really nice. I like the bar scene as well. I thought that was good.
Yeah, the bar scene.
That was like our first taste into all the different scenes with the pendant to come, which was good.
Yeah, true. But yeah, overall it was solid. Not the best directed episode of Torchwood, but I thought it was pretty good. And like you said, most of the magic came in the editing room.
Yeah.
So the music, anything to say about that?
I didn't really pay attention to it, to be honest. There was one scene where it was like dead silent for a while, and they were just talking with no music under it, and I noticed that, but I thought it was completely fine.
I noticed they played KFC radio in the bar, and I was getting a bit triggered. I think I recall some like sort of mystical sounding thing for the scenes of the creature. I don't know. There
was that one loud sound effect that fucking hurt my ears.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay, so the track that we're going to listen to is, I don't even know if it played in this episode, but I've kind of had to fill out some of these ones that don't really have specific tracks.
Yeah.
So the one we're going to be listening to is called Into the Hub.
That was kind of a weird track.
It's like a suite of incidental music that they use. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
That like end strings part was really cool. I was like, oh, this is really nice.
Yeah.
I'll
And then
ride this out.
And then you get that bit at
then,
the
like-
end. It's like. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really notice the music in this episode, so I can't really comment on it too much.
It was more. I think it was more noticeable in the last one, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it probably wasn't used as effectively as it was in the last one.
I feel like a lot of the score was like they put a lot of eggs into the very first episode, because that one had a fucking beautiful score.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
So a lot of the rest of it gets filled out with all the things you come to expect from Torchwood, like the
Yeah.
like the growling cat, and then you get the
Yeah. Yeah, this just sounded like a suite of music. Pretty good though.
Yeah, but you can sort of you sort of get the hang of like you sort of know what to expect with Torchwood music now, because it's got there's a palette of sound there.
Yeah.
It's quite unique. It's not really. I can't say I can compare it to any other TV show score that I can think of that sounds any similar. It's quite a unique sound. So, I would say that's a thumbs up.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't have anything more to say than that. Oh yeah, so Owen mentions someone named Michael Hamilton is still recovering from what occurred during the ghost incident, saying that he's still seeing Cybermen outside his mother's house. So this was, I mean, it was quite a while ago when you watched it, but during the Series 2 finale, Doomsday, there was those scenes where like the Cybermen would go into people's houses.
Yeah.
So that's a reference to one of the like a dad from that family that we saw inside the house, and so he's got apparently he's got PTSD from that, and he's seeing like visions of Cybermen outside the house.
Yeah.
So
it's a good bit of connection to Doctor Who as well.
Yeah. Toshiko's observations of Yanto's thoughts reveal he is still in turmoil after the death of Lisa Hallett from Cyberwoman.
Yeah. Lisa.
It's become a meme at this point.
Lisa.
Dear.
Lisa, your brain.
Oh, when we woke up the next morning, a dog was pissing on our tent. God, honestly, that's the shittest line of dialogue in Doctor Who. The viewership was 1.3 million, which I think might be slightly up from last time, actually.
Yeah, it was 1.2, I think.
Yeah,
last time.
so Countryside must have gotten people on board, a little bit. So that's good.
Got people talking.
Yeah. So, give it a conclusion and a rating out of 10 for Greeks bearing gifts.
My conclusion is I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was nice to have another sci-fi episode. Definitely nice to get to know Tosh a little bit more. Get to know the crew some more, and there was some good sci-fi elements to it, and good story elements, good analysis of human nature, especially with the way you kind of understood Tosh's despair at the end of, how can you continue being a human knowing how shitty humans are, and also just the continuation of the subplot between Gwen and Owen was good and done in a good way. This way where it shows that Gwen's not completely okay with it and everything, and yeah. And then I love the little bit of lore with Jack, because I know he's not human. I know it's his hand in the jar as well. My rating, I think I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10 this time. So a little bit lower than Countryside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because on paper, I should like this more than Countryside because I'm usually a sucker for character drama. Because Countryside had fucking no character drama in it. However, it was... Well, actually, to be fair, it did have the very start with all the who'd you just know, but that was a cracking horror. This was good too. I just think that some of the execution of a little bit of the dialogue and a little bit of the editing lets it down a little bit. But having said that, the concept was great. Some of the stuff that we did get from it was great. I really liked the way the Greek plot unraveled, like starting in 1812, and then you think the guy shot the girl and she got resurrected, but then it's revealed that she actually ripped his heart out. And the way that Owen figured this out was a really subtle way to show the kind of talent he is as a doctor, not only just with the duck pellets and Countryside, but now we've got this as well with the autopsy. The fact that he was able to do that with a corpse that's 200 years old, it really shows his talent. Then you've also got all the stuff with Gwen and Owen as well, showing the worst side of it. And then obviously you get stuff with Yanto and with Jack too. And to finally get an episode with Tosh was great. We've been waiting for this. And Mary was a really good character, really good performance. And there was some just really interesting creative ideas. And some of the sort of, because interestingly, with talking about some of the dialogue and the storytelling, the last episode, everything was straight to the point. Everything was like smack you in the face with a brick. Whereas this one, there was a lot of sort of poetry and themes, and like the scene with Tosh on her bed was very thought provoking and very sort of it was a lot more how do I say it? It was. It's not pretentious because it makes sense, but it was a lot more artistic, you know. It had a lot more flair and it was more along those lines of sort of poetry. And again, when she read Yanto's mind, it was like that too. So I think this was a good episode to come right after Countryside because in a lot of ways it's almost the complete opposite of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just a really solid episode that was slightly let down by a few issues in execution. I'll give it a 7. I'll give it the same one as you. I was thinking 7.5, but I'm like, no, it's not quite 7.5. I think it's
not just below Countryside. It's kind of
because
it's not the same. It's not
7. I think 7's fair.
Yeah.
So still good, but not great.
Yeah.
So, that means, with that said, we now have episode 8 next.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to tell you what the full title of this one is.
Okay.
All I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to tell you a fragment of what this episode's called.
Okay.
So the next episode is called They Keep Killing.
Ooh.
And somewhere in there is a word missing that I haven't mentioned.
Us.
I'm not gonna.
They keep killing trees.
It's gonna be about deforestation.
It's gonna be a Greenpeace episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
They keep killing.
They keep killing.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So, any thoughts and anticipations for They Keep Killing?
Oh God, it's a pretty ambiguous title without the missing word. No, but I'll tell you what, it will be cool to start to really get into the main stories of Torchwood instead of just these little one-offs. Work towards something bigger.
Interesting. Okay. Yep. So, They Keep Killing is next. Everyone else watching this knows what the real title is. It'll be very interesting. So, we will see you all next time for They Keep Killing.
See you later.